It had been a few months into my incarceration at Kot Lakhpat Jail. I had settled into the routine, becoming familiar with the labyrinthine corridors and the diverse personalities within the prison walls. With time, I had built a friendly rapport with the jailers and fellow inmates, allowing me a certain degree of freedom to roam around. One inmate I often saw during my walks was Asjad, a man serving a long sentence for murder. Despite his grim background, Asjad had a humorous side, often cracking jokes and lightening the otherwise heavy atmosphere. Asjad's story was a tragic one. He'd grown up in a small, tight-knit village where honor and pride were paramount. Asjad was once a respected young man in his community, known for his quick wit and friendly demeanor. However, a heated dispute with a neighboring family over a land issue escalated into a violent confrontation. During the argument, the son of the rival family used the abusive word "bunchod," a deeply offensive term. In that instant, Asjad saw red. Overwhelmed by a surge of anger and humiliation, he shot the young man dead. The consequences were swift and severe. Asjad was sentenced to life in prison. For 21 years, he lived within the grey walls of Kot Lakhpat Jail, reflecting on the split-second decision that had cost him his freedom. Asjad adapted to prison life, using humor as a shield against the harsh realities of his existence. He became a well-known figure among the inmates, his jokes and light-hearted nature earning him a reputation as the prison's unofficial comedian. It was his way of coping, a mask he wore to hide the pain and regret that simmered beneath the surface. One day, as I made my rounds, I learned that Asjad was nearing the end of his sentence. After 21 long years behind bars, he was finally going to be released. It was news that should have brought joy, but when I went to congratulate him, I was met with a sight that took me aback. The usually jovial Asjad was a shadow of his former self, his face a mask of fear and apprehension. It was as if the prospect of freedom was a sentence in itself. I approached him, trying to understand the source of his fear. I assumed it was the daunting task of re-entering a world that had changed dramatically over 2 decades. After all, 21 years ago, life was entirely different. The world was not yet saturated with mobile phones. The internet was a luxury limited to the wealthy in big cities. And communication often relied on physical letters as phone calls were prohibitively expensive. Stepping back into this new reality could be overwhelming for anyone. But as I spoke with Asjad, I realized that his fear was not rooted in the advancements of technology or the evolution of society. His true concern was far more personal and immediate. Asjad revealed that the family of the man he had killed all those years ago still harbored a deep and burning desire for vengeance. Despite the best efforts of his brothers, who had been trying to negotiate a truce for the past 5 years, the victim's family remained resolute. They had vowed to kill Asjad the moment he stepped foot outside the prison. I tried to offer words of comfort, reminding him that he had paid his dues to society by serving his sentence. "It's settled," I told him, but Asjad shook his head. "Big brother," he said, "things are different in our village." Asjad's face softened as he shared his brother's plan. They intended to keep him in hiding once he was released from jail. His eyes flickered with a glimmer of hope, albeit a frail one. "They want to send me abroad eventually," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But with my record, getting a long-term visa will be almost impossible." As the days counted down to his release, I continued to encourage him to stay positive and have faith. "Inshallah, all will be good, Asjad," I said, trying to infuse him with a sense of hope. "You've endured so much, and you've grown from it. You're not the same man you were 21 years ago. Believe in the possibility of a better future." The day of Asjad's release arrived. As I watched him walk through the gates to a world beyond, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of freedom he was stepping into. Would he ever truly be free? Or was he simply exchanging one prison for another? A life in hiding, always looking over his shoulder? A few months later, I too was released from Kot Lakhpat Jail. Eager to know how Asjad was doing, I dialed the number he had given me, hoping to hear his voice and perhaps offer some more support. The phone rang once, twice, a third time, before a voice answered. It was Asjad's brother. I introduced myself, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm a friend of Asjad's. Can I speak with him?" I asked, my heart hammering in my chest. There was a pause, a silence that seemed to stretch on for an eternity. And then Asjad's brother spoke, his voice heavy with sorrow. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Big brother," his brother continued, "Asjad was shot dead on the 3rd day of his release." For a moment, I felt like I had turned to stone. My senses, my mind, everything suspended in disbelief. The world had moved on, but for Asjad, time had stopped. The fear that had haunted his last days behind bars had followed him into the world outside, proving that sometimes the prison bars are not the only thing that keeps a man trapped. Thank you for watching aikdastaan, where every tale is a testament to the human spirit and every voice resonates with the truth as they perceive it.